We begin with the big news of the day, and it certainly is. Republican Senator Arlen Specter jumped ship to the Democratic Party. NBC's Andrea is in Washington, D.C. right now, along with Newsweek's Howard Fineman. Let's go first to Andrea. You started off with KYW in Philadelphia. I remember you from a while back. Tell me about this. What do you make of his decision to become a Democrat?
I've known Arlen Specter so long, I knew him when he was a Democrat. I first knew of him back in 1965 when he was first switching to the Republican Party in order to successfully run for district attorney. Covered him then when he was running for DA, running for mayor, eventually lost the DA's race, went unsuccessfully for the Senate, went for governor, finally got elected in 1980. This is extraordinary, and the national significance you keyed on right at the beginning, Chris, is that this is a party that is shrinking so badly in terms of moderate Republicans. The Northeast, no longer any moderate Republicans. Specter listed all of the ways in which moderate Republicans have been shut out by, notably, the Club for Growth, which was led until last week by Pat Toomey, the man who was threatening him in a primary challenge and would most likely, all things being equal, have won the primary, and he would have been out. So this is, as he pointed out, going to be criticized as opportunistic. He's done that before. We've seen it. But it's also a matter of passion for him, health care, the big issues that he really cares about because of personal experience, personal suffering with brain cancer and all of the rest that he's come back from. And this was what he was seeing his party, the Republican Party, shutting down. And it's not to be ignored that so many Republican moderates and independents switched over and joined the Democratic Party to be able to vote for either Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama. The Republican Party that remains in Pennsylvania is a shrunken party, and it is far more conservative.
Howard, your thoughts? You were just up in Pennsylvania with your family in Pittsburgh. What do you make of this? I think it's a big surprise myself.
Well, I'm here in Pittsburgh, Chris, and it is my hometown, and I can tell you people here really weren't all that surprised on one level. The talk of Arlen Specter switching parties has been in the air of Pennsylvania for years, so in that sense it wasn't a surprise. The fact that he actually did it may have surprised some people, but once a recent poll came out showing the conservative Pat Toomey clobbering Arlen Specter in what would be a small turnout Republican primary, Specter saw the writing on the wall and said, I'm getting out of here. This is an Ed Rendell, Joe Biden production. Because one of the things that had to happen here, Chris, is that they essentially had to clear the Democratic primary field, basically, and being able to promise Arlen Specter that they could deliver the Democratic nomination to him were he to switch parties. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Rendell basically runs the joint. And so Arlen will be the Democratic nominee, and he may or may not go up against Pat Toomey or another conservative Republican. But the Democrats have 1.2 million, at least, Chris, registration edge in Pennsylvania, swollen by Barack Obama's campaign last time around. The talk around here is interesting. Ed Rendell is not going to run, can't run for governor again, but he can't really take a job in the Democratic administration of Obama because under a quirk of Pennsylvania law, there's a Republican lieutenant governor. He can't leave. The scuttlebutt around town here is that one thing Ed Rendell would like, perhaps, is for his very distinguished wife, who's a judge on the Third Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, Marjorie Osterland Rendell, to perhaps get a Supreme Court nomination down the road. That's how far along the line people around here are thinking at this point.
Well, let's take a look. Here's Arlen Specter explaining his decision this morning.
I am not prepared to have my 29-year record in the United States Senate decided by the Pennsylvania Republican primary electorate, but I'm prepared to take on all comers in a general election. And therefore, I've decided to be a candidate for re-election in 2010 in the Democratic primary.
Andrea, you pointed out accurately that back in 1965 when Arlen was elected DA, he made a deal with Billy Meehan, the Republican boss in the city, whose family had been running the Republican Party for years, that he would become a Republican if he won. Now he's become a Democrat with the conditions, I understand, check me on this, that A, he will have the field cleared by Eddie Rendell. He'll have no opposition from anybody serious like Joe Sestak, the congressman from Delaware County. No challenger of any stature. In fact, they're all going to get out. Shapiro got out today. So they're all moving out. The state rep is getting out. So Josh Shapiro got out. So it looks like they're all clearing the field for him. The President of the United States is going to endorse him in the primary. The party money will be with him. The National Party will be with him. And he'll get seniority in the Senate up to the level of a Democrat, had he been a Democrat these last years since 1981. That is quite a bargain he struck.
It's a great bargain. He wants to be the appropriations chair. That's what he wants. And if you look at the track record of those who would have seniority over him, he's got a pretty good shot at that. I'm not quite clear how quickly they're going to clear the field. They believe they will clear the field, and I think with the pressure of the White House, they will. But when I interviewed Joe Sestak earlier today, he said not so fast, that he wants to wait and see what Specter says about what side he's on and what he's really for, and to prove that he's not just doing this to change the game and out of opportunism. So Sestak is a little bit, has his nose out of joint. He's raised $550,000 in the first 3 months of this year alone, has $3.5 million already in the bank. He really was gunning for it. But I think Allison Schwartz and others will back out, and eventually Joe Sestak will have to. He's got too much of the Democratic Party against him, and you're absolutely right, and Howard is right. Eddie Rendell helped broker this deal. Of course, Joe Biden. They did it publicly. They did it privately. And Rendell, you know, Rendell worked for Specter. That bipartisan DA's office, he was assistant DA under Arlen Specter, and eventually in 1976 became district attorney, was elected district attorney after Specter had lost a couple of years after that.
Don't you just love these entanglements, Andrea? Everybody's under the covers together in Pennsylvania. Everything is entangled. Let me go to Howard. But first of all, here's Senator Specter really giving hell to the Republican right, particularly the Club for Growth, that group that he was being challenged by in the primary. He is really railing against the Republican right for basically pushing him out of his own party. Here he is.
Republicans didn't rally to Wayne Gilchrist in Maryland. Republicans didn't rally to the banner of Joe Schwartz in Michigan. And he was beaten by a conservative in the Club for Growth. They lost the general election. Republicans didn't rally to Heather Wilson in New Mexico. Club for Growth challenged Link Chafee. Remember Link Chafee? They made him spend all his money in the primary, and he lost the general. And had Link Chafee been elected in 2006, the Republicans would have controlled the Senate in 2007 and 8. And I would have been chairman of the committee.
You know, Howard, it sounds like a moderate Republican rallying against the moderate Republicans who are country club Republicans in a lot of cases, and they really don't have much fight in them. When they're challenged by the right, they run. And that's what he's saying, isn't he? His wing of the party doesn't have the spunk to take on the right wing in the party, and that's why he's not going to stay and fight himself. Well, pretty tough words there.
That's true, and he's going out the door bitterly, but it pretty much is, you know, turn out the lights, the party's over as far as the moderate wing of the Republican Party. Arlen Specter pretty much was the Republican wing, right, along with the two sisters of Maine, Olympia Snowe and Susan Collins, who also, those three people are the Republican moderates who voted for the Obama stimulus package. Talking to Democrats here and Republicans here in Pennsylvania today, that was the thing that fired up the conservative base to organize against Arlen Specter once again, got Pat Toomey on his case, resulted in those poll numbers that I was mentioning earlier. It was Arlen Specter's support of Obama's big signature early spending bill that he and the senators from Maine voted for. That's what got the conservatives out here. And Arlen basically said, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm going to lose with you guys. I'm going back to my original roots. Was it opportunistic in a way? But I agree with Andrea. He also has things he wants to be remembered for and known for, health care, education, and so on. Those are more on the Democratic Party agenda now than they are on the Republican agenda. Ironically, a generation ago, that was the Republicans of Pennsylvania. Not anymore.
Well, it looks like